Welcome to Foam to Fortune, the ultimate podcast for spray foam insulation industry. Whether you're a contractor aiming to take your business to the next level or a vendor bringing innovation to the market, this is the place where success stories are shared, insider tips are uncovered, and the industry secrets are revealed. Join us as we dive into the journeys of the spray foam pros who turn their dreams into thriving empires and discover tools and strategies to build your own path to fortune. Ready to elevate your spray foam game? Let's get started. Foam to Fortune, where innovation meets inspiration. Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Spencer, the host of the Foam to Fortune podcast. And tonight I have a very experienced person on the show, Jei Geri. He's been in the business for, over 15 years. Welcome to the show, Jei.
What's going on? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. For all those that are just tuning in that may not know who the heck you are, go ahead and give us a little bit of background about you.
Man, I could speak for hours about my background. Graduated in 2005 from Bordertown, Pennsylvania. Joined the military right away, joined the Army. I was an Army reservist. Went in as a behavioral health specialist, so social worker essentially. Never deployed, so I was very fortunate for that. I was in during the crazy years, so from 2006 to 2015. And I'll tell you what, it was a wild ride. And during that entire time, I never really knew what I wanted to get myself into. You know, my dad was a blue-collar worker. He was a concrete mason, as well as my uncle. He was a concrete mason as well. And, you know, during my summers when I was in high school, I used to help those guys, like doing concrete work and, you know, throwing some curb forms around and, you know, really working on my muscles, throwing all the weight. And when I got out of the military in when I came back from my first assignment in 2008, or was it 2010 rather, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like, I was home, you know, my reserve time was pretty much coming to an end, just going to drill once a month. And one of my good friends, Kyle Veers, reached out to me and he was like, hey, listen, if you want to make some good money, I can get you installing insulation. It's cake. You just got to deal with the itch, deal with the heat. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, let me give it a shot. Like, I'm a pretty grungy worker. I like doing all that kind of stuff, just getting in it, and I'm a hands-on kind of guy. And I did that for I'd say about 6-7 months straight. And then I got thrown on the blowing machine. And then after being on the blows, doing the attics and drill and fills and Optimas and stuff, I was offered an awesome opportunity to do spray foam. Now, I was shadowing this awesome sprayer, and he ended up leaving abruptly to take a project production manager position within this big company I was working for. And I didn't know what to do, essentially. Like, I was watching him for so long, but I was kind of just thrown to the wolves, you know. Had no idea what I was doing. Like, I knew how to take apart the gun. It was the old school AP Fusion. Well, not old school. I mean, it's newer than some of the old machines. But it was, you know, that's all I knew. I didn't really know how to, like, dial in foam. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know the science behind it. I was just told, hey, put it at 120 degrees across the board and 1200 PSI and spray away, you know. And I was doing this and my foam looked terrible. And I'm like, is this how it's supposed to look? So I started Googling a lot of stuff, and I started researching in YouTube, you know, and just trying to find different things to somehow make me better, you know. And I would find little videos here and there watching stuff, and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of getting an idea. And the more jobs I did, I started to get a little better. But then this crazy thing happened. I started off spraying with a half face because they never had a full face respirator for me, or even a full fresh air mask for me. So actually, early on in my spray career, developed like ISO sensitivity, you know, breathing in the material, breathing in the fumes. There was a crack in the first full face they gave me, which I had no idea about. I'm sucking in these fumes like crazy, and I got really, really sick. And back in like 2010, I didn't really see too much MSDS about this. I would Google like the after effects, the side effects for like what spray sickness is, and I could not find anything. I just treated it like it was the flu, and you know, I kind of pushed through it. But after that, I had a hard time dealing with being around spray foam. So I actually took a step back from spraying for a little bit. I was like, listen, I don't want to do this. I don't want to put my body through this or not. And then about a year or so goes by after I'm going back to just batting insulation or whatever. I got back into spraying again because that's just where the money was. I didn't want to just make piece rate doing bat work. I wanted to make, that $500 again, $500 a set or whatever it was. And I just got back into it again. I, requested I needed a, fresh air mask, and no fans or buts about it. And they got that for me. And then I was rocking and rolling ever since. And that's what led me pretty much to here. I left that company after about, I was there for about, say, 11 years. I dedicated a lot of time to that company. They just weren't paying. I went back to like a different type of piece rate hybrid hourly because I was a flex foreman. I would run spray foam jobs. I would go inspect jobs. I would run these massive commercial jobs, like 400 room condominium kind of buildings. Like I was doing all kinds of stuff, and they just weren't paying right. And I came back from training. I was down in Texas at, I think it was called ISS. They do fireproofing school or something like that. Yeah. I was talking to a couple of guys that did the spray foam down there, and they were like, "Hey, listen, this is how much money you can be making." So I was like, "Wow, let me go back to my employer about this." And I went back, and they were like, "Yeah, we'll give you $2." And I'm like, "No, I'm done." So essentially, there was a bad job that took place at the end of my career with working for them, and I'm like, "Listen, I can't do this anymore for what you're paying me, so I'm out." Mm-hmm. And then I just branched off into different companies, where then I led to my time of being where I'm at now. So that was my tenure of like 15 years. I went from being in the big corporations back to back to now being mom and pop and just really, getting this stuff locked in.
Yeah, but it sounds like now you're at a place that supports you and really makes you feel like you're part of a team.
Yeah, these guys are just phenomenal. My employer is just he's a great human being. He's been in the business since the 70s. Well, it started with his father's business, back when the Gusmer machines were, the big thing, where they had the Gusmer school in New Jersey. And it started with them. And then he just really grew this business. And believe it or not, it was all word of mouth back then, Even to this day, it's all word of mouth because a lot of our work, so many people were seeing it all over the place. They just wanted his company for a while. So then I've been now with them for 2 years, and we've just blown up, especially with just the social media aspect, being able to show off the work all over the place, and it's just been a blessing working with these guys. The team is great. We all work great together. We piggyback off of each other when we're having fun on the job. It's a very great place to work for, 100%.
People really love to watch foam rise on social media.
They do.
Like even your average Joe. Like I always tell people, like, just shoot some videos of you spraying, man, and like watching it expand. And people are like, whoa, they just got caught up in that stuff on online. And so it sounds to me like you've grown a huge TikTok following. I mean,
I have,
a decent sized TikTok following. I don't want to make it feel like it's huge. But, what type of stuff do you usually share out on socials?
It's all, I just like showing like how flat you can make foam. To me, it's no longer just banging on a job. It's an art form to me. It's for doing it for so long. I don't care about how fast I do a job. I just want people to look at that and be like, no one else is doing that right now. Or, I can't imagine somebody down south or even somebody up in Canada or even across the globe that sprays. Like, why can't I spray like that? I got people that message me from Australia. I got people from Europe. I got people people will reach out to me being like, how are you doing this? Why can't I do this? And then I'll spend the time to like walk through, like, this is what you can do to really get the stuff dialed in,
Yeah. And so with spraying flatter, I'm imagining that there's less waste, less scraping.
Yes, 100%. Like when you can get this stuff dialed in pretty good, you're not blowing the studs off like crazy. You're not filling them up where you're killing your helper that has to sit there and scrape for 3 hours while you're sitting back doing nothing. Like it's one of those where it's just, I want to make my job easier for me. I want it to look good for the customer, and I want it easier on my team, so that way they're not killing themselves.
And more ROI, less foam waste.
Exactly, a lot of less foam waste.
Yeah. Over the course of the last 15 years, I'm sure you've seen a ton. Like, what's been the biggest change in this business that you've seen?
Technology. I feel that from what it has been, 15 years ago and even beyond that to where it's at now, I mean, there's new breathing systems, different apparatuses, better guns, better machines, sometimes not better, but just more technologically advanced, that's just, it's amazing how far it's come. And then just the going from just, the construction side and like what you see on job sites to now you can see it in your phone, the social media side of it. Like it's been booming from where it was 15, 20 years ago. I never knew anything like this would have ever existed back then to where we're at now, but big time on the technology for sure.
Yeah, the advancements in the short period of time that I've been involved in, just seeing, at the trade shows, kind of like the new advancements and things. It's been pretty interesting, and just listening to the sprayers like yourself talk about these new machines that are coming out. Where, I mean, some of it even sounds like it's pretty much hands off. You just basically hit a button and start spraying, which is crazy to me.
It is, like the Graco, the Reactor 3 that I have, even the Reactor 2, you can sync your phone right to it. And instead of having to run in and out of the truck or in and out of like where you're working, say you're up on 3 stages of scaffolding and you're harnessed off and maybe you're working by yourself and you have something wrong with your temperatures and you don't like it and you can't make that change up there. You have to run all the way down, go out to the truck, make that change, come all the way back in, and then you got to hope that it's where you need it to be, or you might just waste an hour, 2 hours just going back and forth, whereas now you can just sync your phone with Reactor Connect app and you're right there. You can change everything you need on your phone. I can change all my temperatures, my pressures. I can change everything like right there. So it eliminates the going back and forth constantly. It saves you a ton of time, and you can just watch as it dials it in.
That's really cool. I mean, time wise, safety wise, like you're talking about, if you're on levels of scaffolding to harness up, you got to unharness, come down the scaffolding,
exactly.
And more of that stuff could lead to accidents of falling and
big time.
Hey, Foam fam, real talk. You're up early in attics, busting your butt all day. Is your Google business profile sleeping? If your name isn't showing up when people are searching spray foam near me, then you're losing out on jobs to Chuck and his rusty van. We over here at Spray Foam Genius Marketing will fix that for you. From SEO to Google business profiles to websites, we do all that nerdy stuff. This way, you stay booked solid. If you want more leads without getting the bad ones, hit us up at sprayfoamgeniusmarketing.com and let's turn your foam into fortune.
Like imagine if you're like in a 4-story building, you know what I mean? And you have you're over 400 feet, if not even further away from even where your truck is at. Like sometimes your phone might not even connect that far. So you got to hope that you have somebody that's close by that can make these changes, or you're going to be up and down, up and down, up and down. It's definitely great and paramount that technology has come as far as it has, because it makes the sprayer's life so much easier.
Yeah, that's amazing. Is there a job that you'll never forget, either because it went totally sideways or it was just absolutely amazing?
I got 2, so I'll give you a good one and I'll give you a bad one. We'll start with the bad one first.
I love it.
So the bad one, I was doing a job down in Villanova, so outside of Philly, and it was like, I think it was like maybe not Villanova, like the Bryn Mawr, Bala Cynwyd area. It's like real bougie, like colonial, like real expensive private schools, Yeah. And I don't remember the private school, like the name of it off the top of my head, but it was this weird job. It was first a removal and then spray foam. And when I got there, all these buildings are old stone, old slate roofs, real low pitches, like 4 pitches or less, like just really kind of shitty to get in there, especially being a, chunky guy like me,
Big guy, right?
So basically I show up to this job site. It's just me and one other kid. And this guy, he's never really done spray foam before, but we were there the first day just to kind of drop the rig in place, get set up, do a walkthrough. And I pop my head up in this, we climb up this ladder. It's like this weird, it was like a little, like a circle hole that was cut into the side of this plaster, like ceiling. And we pop our head up there and I'm like, I can't fit through here. There's no way. And it was like imagine
attic.
Yeah. So what it was, like a planetarium style dome barrel ceiling, right?
Yeah.
Well, this dome ceiling was built inside of a standard A-frame peak ceiling. So there's like this hollow gap where that dome is plastered and lath, but not like really attached to like the main roof itself. So they built it, a new roof over top of that. So I'm like, I don't know how I can do this. Now I had the spray foam eave to peak on the entire thing up there after removing all the old existing bat. And I'm like, there has to be another entry point up there. Because I looked and there was like a parapet like up on the top somewhere. So I get on a ladder, I climb up the side of this roof and I go down and there was a parapet entrance. I'm like, okay, let me see if I can get in there now. Because there had to be a way they had to run the electrical or something like that. And that was their entry point. But the crazy part is this way the spackle and lath was done, there was like nowhere to stand, nowhere to sit. I was in about like 2.5 foot clearance. Now imagine you open your door and you see just a barrel ceiling, but only 2.5 feet of clearance from the top of that all the way around down. So I crawl in there and I'm looking around. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to spray all the way down the back side of these barrels, like down towards where the actual bottom is, without like getting stuck. I'm like, how am I going to climb out of that area? Like, how am I going to reach down far enough?
Grease yourself up with like some some Crisco or something.
Coat myself in Vaseline as I slide down the barrel. You know,
this doesn't seem good.
No,
I see where this is going.
So I'm like looking at this. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Now, this is back when I worked for like a big company, and I had my guy go in there. I'm like, hey, listen, you just do the best you can and remove what you can. I got to make a phone call. So I call my company and I'm like, hey, what can we do to spray this? I was like, because I can't fit down there. Like, I'm never going to come back out. Like, you might as well just lock me in this part of the building and forget about it. I'll just haunt people that come by the planetarium or whatever. And he's like, just do the best you can. And I'm like, that makes no sense to me. I'm like, so if I spray this wrong, we're going to get ice damming. We're going to get all kinds of thermal bridging. Like, it's going to be a big problem right here. Oh, just do the best you can. And I'm like, you're not helping me. Now, mind you, this is management that has never touched a spray foam gun, that never touched any of this kind of stuff. It's just me. That's it, you know? So I had to find a way to do this and at least try to do it somewhat the right way, you know? So I contacted GC and I'm like, hey, listen, I need you to come up here and take a look at this. And we had to find a way to do this right because there's nothing safe about this. Like, what if I fall through the spackle? Like, I could lay boards across like the metal, but only at the top. You know, we're talking a dome ceiling that's probably 12 feet from the peak down to that next spot, you know? I was like, we have to build some sort of ladder setup or something for me to climb out, you know? And he was like, well, what if we just smash bat as far down as you can go and you just spray down to the bat? And I'm like, so what about like the other 8 feet that I can't go? And he goes, oh, we can maybe spray it from the outside. I'm like, are you going to rip off all that slate roof and expose a rip all the way around an entire ceiling just so I can spray 4 feet? And he looked at me like, yeah, no, just spray down to the bat. And I'm like, oh my God. So I had to have my guy jam all this bat down. We used broom handles just to jam it down as far as I could. And I literally had to lay on my stomach on a plank, hold on to the roof and kind of lean down as far as I could to the point where I felt like I was going to slide, but I could catch myself. And I kind of pinched myself with my hand against the ceiling. I jammed my arm down as far as I could, cranked the pressure all up to like 1550 and just let it rip. But I did it a touch cold because when it's cold, you get a nice, thinner pattern. Mm-hmm. And I just dumped down there just to make sure as much of that was covered as possible. And then as I worked my way up, I was able to obviously heat up the foam and expand it. It was a nightmare. It took me probably about a good week, and it was only maybe 60 gallons of spray foam, but that's how long it took me because of how you have to weasel your way all the way around this barrel ceiling and then work your way all the way up just to spray that roof peak. It was a disaster.
Oh my God.
Worst job of my entire existence,
You still have nightmares today.
Yeah, dude, I'm glad my boss does not set me up like that ever, because you do jobs that I know I can do. I'm like, all right, good. Thank you, God, because I know for a fact he would have never done that.
Almost had to call in a little person. Be like, all right,
I don't even know if he would have fit. You had to tie a little rope to him and lower him down and then have to yank him up as he goes out, But the best job I've ever been on, man, I'll tell you what, I don't know who the builder was, but it was an Aldi's, like a big warehouse for like their groceries or whatever. And it was not like a normal store. It was an actual warehouse in Toms River in Jersey here. And I'll tell you what, that builder knew what he was doing. He had everything cleaned for me. He pulled away, like he had all the plumbers and the sprinkler guys pull all their stuff away from the exterior walls. The metal framing was actually like a foot off the wall. So they wanted 4 inches. So I was able to spray 4 inches behind those metal studs comfortably I didn't have to worry about any of the metal, studs twisting on me. And I had like free reign to that job. They supplied the lift for me. And that was a big job. You're talking, it was probably at least, I would say close to about 80,000 square feet, but it was wide open. So you would just drive on that lift and just spray and spray. And you could get 100, 120, 160 gallons easy in a day. And then right back into the, next day, boom, you're hammering it out again. Like that was probably the easiest job. It's nice when you get builders that just value an insulator instead of treating them like they're the shit end of the stick, where some guys or some builders definitely do. But that was awesome. That was definitely the easiest job I've ever had to do.
Is that the biggest job you've done as well?
No, the biggest job I've ever done was the Philadelphia post office. That job, I mean, that post office is massive. And I think the total amount of spray foam I put in there was probably pushing 60 sets. And that's a good chunk of foam. You
sprayed all that yourself?
Sprayed all of it. I had two helpers with me that their sole purpose was just to handle the hose, because I was actually up on like these, they pre-built like almost the masonry style scaffolding outside with the cranking system,
Mm-hmm.
They built those like inside the basement. Like the basement was massive, 30-foot high basement, right? Crazy. Like these old buildings are insane down there.
Yeah.
But their sole purpose was just to help move the hose, because it was too much for me to be doing that high up in the air, even though I could tie off, but like just be able to move, climb down, move it back over to the next lift. Because they had these masonry scaffolds built like next to each other. So it was like as a hop over, we had to slide all this hose over.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. But that was definitely the biggest job I ever did. And that was pretty crazy. Going back and forth, hour and a half drives every day, and then having to do that all, just long days, long hours, But I after you're done and you look back and you see how many sets of foam you sprayed, you're like, that's pretty impressive at the end of the day.
Plus a really cool building to think about, Philadelphia Post Office. It sounds like, pretty historical, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it was an awesome experience. Pretty cool spot.
Yeah. What do you wish more guys understood when they first started spraying foam?
I wish they understood the science. I wish they spent time learning what it is to read foam. They have all these technical sheets out there on every type of brand of foam that exists. But I feel that, understanding the science behind the foam first, I think is paramount. Yeah. Learning how this stuff works, what makes it work, why it works in the situations that we're spraying in. And then once you understand all that, getting into parameters, getting into understanding the weather, the humidity, all your substrates, why we spray. Like there's a lot that goes into it. I feel like I could write you a Bible of this stuff, of what you need to like understand before you start pulling that trigger. Once you get that down, you can start branching off in the spraying and really, really kick some butt doing it. I feel like that's what we, what people need to be focusing on is really the science and learning how to read that foam,
Yeah. And does that typically come, Jay, from just really experience? Is that really
I think so.
Way you get that?
Experience is definitely what it is, but it also, if you got a good trainer, and I'll tell you what, like even like Google is amazing what you can look up. Like if you want to be proactive and you really want to get this, this job field like locked down, like do the research yourself. It's out there. It's everywhere now. It didn't exist back 15 years ago. Like now you can go anywhere, and all these tech sheets are great, but I don't even use the tech sheets anymore. Like I've gotten so used to understanding what the foam looks like from years and years of experience doing it, mm-hmm. that I just know what to expect and how to dial it in. Like some days are a fight, but when you understand the parameters and the science of it, you can dial pretty much any foam. And like my buddy John that I commented on Facebook not too long ago, like he told me before, he's like, great foamers can dial any type of foam in. Same with Dominic, like you can dial, if you're good at what you do, you can dial in any type of foam, because that's understanding the science, reading the foam, and what it's supposed to look like. So let's get to that point. And it all starts back with understanding how this stuff works and what changes it, the air, the temperature, everything, the humidity, the moisture content. So once you got that stuff locked down, you're smooth sailing.
Do you guys, the current company you're working with, do you guys spray the same manufacturer?
You mean like foam wise?
Foam wise, yeah.
Yeah, so we kind of jump around. It really depends on what the boss likes. He likes finishes, and he sees my work and he's like, we want finishes. We like that nice, smooth finish. We don't like it looking too grainy if we can, prevent it from happening. We spray a lot of Huntsman, over here in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, New York, this whole little area. That back to back, being able to spray 3.25-inch passes is paramount here. We spray a lot of R38, R49, R60. So being able to only spray like a 2-inch or 3-inch pass, and then having to wait a half an hour to an hour just for that core temp or that surface temp to cool down, puts a lot of stress on us, and it's once you find a foam that you can do like these high lift passes on, you want to stay with it, So during the winter months, we're predominantly big on Huntsman just because we can dump that foam like crazy. But during the summer months, which we just recently got into spraying some UPC high lift, I really like it. The UPC regular blend, I fought it for like a good month or so when we had it, and I did not care for it, but I didn't know that they had a high lift variant. And once I got my hands on it, this job I just did recently, excuse me, this job that I just did recently came out amazing. And it's the high lift. It was my first time spraying it, and it came out. I couldn't have asked for a better performing foam the way it did, especially with the heat wave we just got. It just cranked up to like 100 degrees outside, and the substrate was over 130 degrees. And I'm not used to spraying like that. I'm used to spraying in a controlled environment where I can keep it below 90 at least, but not when it's up that hot. So the Southern boys know what they're doing when it comes to spraying that hot stuff. But up here in PA, man, you're not ready for that. And especially the moisture, we get a lot of humidity. Our humidity is constantly above 85% always. So you just gotta be able to find a foam that works. So UPC high lift is great. I can't wait to get my hands on the summer mix. The Huntsman is great. I've also sprayed Quadrant. I really like Quadrant too. Quadrant's a great foam. What those guys, Rob and them, are doing over there, it's a good product. I like their open cell too. And one of my all-time favorites still to this day is Ambit. Ambit is just one of those foams, man, that it's got a slow rise, but the way it just blends into the steel and the way it just runs in a cavity, I don't think there's a better like finishing foam than that. Now, I won't say anything bad about any of the other ones. They all have their own unique finishes, But something about that Ambit's got a nice gloss to it. And you got to be patient with it, but that comes with experience. A lot of guys like to rush, and those of us up here in the north, we spray a lot thicker than what those guys in the south are spraying. So it takes a different finesse to do what we do do up here.
Yeah. And do you have any tips for somebody? I mean, obviously it sounds like you have a lot of experience spraying different foams. What's your day look like? Let's say, for example, you're used to spraying Huntsman. You come into the job site and it's this UPC high rise or high lift or whatever you guys call it.
Yeah.
What is it that you like? What does it look like for you to kind of figure out how this foam reacts? Hey, Spray Foam Contractor. Imagine if there was a button on your phone that you could hit that said more jobs. You press it and boom, leads start coming in, calls start ringing. And now finally, you're not wondering where's your next customer coming from. That's basically what Spray Foam Genius Marketing does. We optimize your Google business profile and your SEO and your website so that when people are ready to buy from you, you come up at the top of the Google search. More visibility, more calls equals more jobs. No weird contracts. And go ahead and check out sprayfoamgeniusmarketing.com so that we can get your genius button installed today. You're not just a contractor, you're a CEO of a spray foam business. But if you're not getting found online, you're still playing small. Spray Foam Genius Marketing takes your business from meh to magnetic. Want to grow like a CEO? Book your strategy call today at sprayfoamgeniusmarketing.com. Do you have any tips for somebody? I mean, obviously it sounds like you have a lot of experience spraying different foams. What's your day look like? Let's say, for example, you're used to spraying Huntsman. You come into the job site and it's this UPC high rise or high lift or whatever you guys call it.
Yeah.
What is it that you like? What does it look like for you to kind of figure out how this foam reacts?
So it's all about the rise and the tackiness, the cream rate of it. So basically, what I try to look for is anything between like that 4 to 6 second rise, end
Mhm.
of rise, end of tack, somewhere in that realm. All foams react differently. Some are slower, some are faster, depending on the catalyst on the front end. There's a lot of things that go into it, but what it comes down, I you gotta you start your day off kind of cold, right? So these HFOs like the temperatures to be a little cold, right? Up here in Pennsylvania, the mornings are a little wet. On a summer day, like for instance, we'll just use today as an example. I got to the job site around 7:30 this morning. We started a little later than most companies. Our normal start time is 7:30, but I like to be at the shop at like 6:30, 6:45. We
Mhm.
got to the job site around 7:30 today, and I noticed there's a little condensation up there. So I was like, okay, well, I know today is going to be maybe a little bit of a challenge, but let me get some airflow. Once that sun hits it, that condensation will be gone. The dew point, we were pretty much past that, but we just want to make sure that we're dry. Once I make sure that we're dry, we're within operating parameters, and I get my gun heated up. I'll set my temperature for like the high lift, anywhere between like 108 on the B, 105 on the A, and I kind of keep the hose similar to where the A is at because for some reason with the A side, if the A side gets too hot, you fight the foam all day. You can't really, you might be able to find a pattern, but it might react too fast and you might be blowing it off the wall. So
Yeah.
you gotta find like what's comfortable for you. And what I do is I take some cardboard, which we have a billion sheets that we take with us to a job site, and I'll lay that down and I'll start spraying onto that cardboard. I'll spray until I find where the foam is atomizing right. You can hear it too. You can, as you're running it back and forth, you actually will hear like the beads of foam hitting it and it's kind of blending into a flat surface. I will do that until I get the right pattern, the right consistency before I start putting it on a customer's wall. Even
Yeah.
if it takes me a half an hour. So I got to make sure that my temperatures are right, it's calibrated right, and I have a nice perfect circle pattern. Like some days you kind of can't help it, like it might obscure a little bit and you kind of work with it, but I do what I can to get that circle. So I start usually on the cold end and then I work my way up. When it's hot like this, I started actually hotter this morning and
Mhm.
then worked my way down. It's much easier to heat up foam than it is to cool it down. Like today, I ended up turning my hose heat off just because I couldn't really see my pattern. The steel was so hot, I really didn't have a wet line that I was looking for. And I'm like, yeah, I can't even see it today. I was like, you know what? Let me just turn the hose heat off. Let's drop the temperatures down. I want to see what it does. And it's just kind of playing with it. Like, I want to see if it's going to go down to like that little garden hose pish stream kind of thing. And it didn't do it. Actually, I got down to a nice controlled pattern. I'm like, you know what? We're just going to run with that. Again, completely off of their tech sheets. That has nothing to do with any of that. Their tech sheets say 105, I think, to like 115 or something like that. I'm at 100, like 104 or 103 across the board on my heat. I turned my hose heat off and I was spraying like butter all day today. It's you just got to know how to finesse it a little bit without killing your yield a little too much. But these days when it's hot, you can't help it. You got to really, watch it, watch how it reacts, and then just roll with it.
Would you say that a new guy would know what to do in this situation, or is this just come from your experience of just kind of playing with so many foams, knowing what it looks like,
I think it comes with
knowing how you
experience.
achieve there?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think it comes with experience. I feel like new guys would have a really hard time. You would get a really kind of crappy product, on someone's walls, and I've seen them out there.
Mhm.
And it's no fault to them. They just haven't been guided enough, or maybe haven't done enough jobs, or haven't done enough research, or haven't been trained properly.
Yeah.
And it goes back to like this is why these people need to learn how to, learn the science of the product because if you don't, it's a dog eat dog world out there. And if you mess up something like that, homeowners, customers will let you know. And especially when because they can Google this stuff now. They can look it up and be like, what does closed cell foam look like? What does open cell foam supposed to look like? And then they start seeing these pictures and like, hold on, why does mine look terrible? You know what I mean? Or why does mine have delaminations? So that's where it comes down to.
Yeah. Totally makes sense. And obviously, the only way a person gets there is from experience, I feel.
Yeah.
I mean,
Experience and training, proper training and experience for sure.
yeah. From your perspective, what makes a great spray foam crew? And is there something that just kills the vibe on a job site?
What makes a good crew is just the ability to listen, the ability to adapt, and like don't question like the work that's being done. Like I know if someone's new to a company, like 9 chances out of 10, this company has a system down that works flawless for them, right? So you don't want to add a monkey to that wrench. You know what I mean? Like you want to make sure everything stays smooth. So a good team is built on like you have to have good prep guys that understand what needs to be prepped. You know, these windows and these doors. It sounds like it's easy work, but there's a lot of overlooking stuff that takes place. You know, outlets and floors and stuff like that. So they really have to be on their P's and Q's. So even though sprayers are like, you know, predominantly one of the most important jobs, the prep guy is even more important in my eyes, because if they miss something and you're in the spray mode and you're not paying attention, you might whack that garage door and you're like, well, this is going to be a nightmare. Or I just blasted someone's window, or I might have just painted somebody's car because it snuck out the bottom of a garage door, you know? So when you got a good team of prep guys, you have and they know how to prep good, they know how to clean up good, and you have two sprayers that are just rocking and rolling, it just makes the job so mindless, you know? My boss and I, we run a dual rig. We have a single rig that goes out too. But when that dual rig is out, it's usually everybody's on site. So we might have, you know, two prep guys going. We got him and I spraying, and then we have a guy that's pretty much running our hoses. You know, that's or that'll be doing the swap outs for the material swapping out or whatever we need. Like he'll be there for that, and that's nice because it takes the stress away from the sprayer having to constantly do it himself. You know, when you're by yourself, or even if you just have one guy, you might overlook stuff. You might rush a job. This prevents us from rushing because it allows us to just really dial in on what we're doing. We don't have to worry about it. We don't have to second guess nobody. We don't have to babysit. Everybody just does what they're supposed to do. They know how to do it, and they just rock and roll, you know? But what can ruin that is you get people, especially in today's age, that are so, you know, busy on their phones that are, you know, when they're working, they should not be on their phone 24/7. And I get it. Sometimes this job can be a little boring if you're a prep guy. You might have prepped the whole house, but now you're just standing around doing nothing, right? Just watching a sprayer room so you can go scrape. But you should be using that time to learn that job. You know, watch how a sprayer is running, because eventually you don't want to be a prep guy forever. There's no real money in that. Eventually you might want to pick up that gun and start spraying one of these days. So watch and learn. Don't be buried in your phone watching YouTube or being on Snapchat all day. Like, let's get this operation dialed in, you know, because if you're one bag of egg in the basket, you're going to stress out the job completely. You know, we had a guy who just would not be on his phone, or would always be on his phone 24/7, constantly argued with us, constantly questioned why we do things a certain way. And it's like, bro, we have a system. It's been in place for a very long time, and it works extremely well. Just do your job. Like, that's all I want you to do is do your job. Like, we want to have fun, but now you're making me question why even brought you here in the first place, you know? And sadly, after it got down to it, we had to let him go because I was constantly working with this guy every day. He was making me do my job 4 times harder than what it was. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. You know, you got to get rid of him. And he listened. He's like, listen, he's gone, you know?
Yeah. Too much friction. Too much friction,
man. No, you're supposed to, when you're a blue collar worker, your job's bad enough as is. It's hot outside, or it's cold outside, it's raining, it's shitty. The last thing you want to deal with is being a babysitter or dealing with a crybaby who just doesn't like his job. Well, then don't do it. You know, there's plenty of people that would easily take up this job and want to learn instead of talking to your girlfriend or your ex or whatever on your phone all day and getting the constant fights. You know, like, let's just do your job and get out of here. Nobody wants to be here doing it any longer than anybody else.
For sure, man. Is there, I guess, what if someone asked you today whether they should get into the spray foam business, what would you tell them?
I'd tell them to go for it. You know, it's a little, I mean, I don't know if it's flooded or not because I haven't really been all over the nation. Like, I mean, I see a lot of guys from all over the place that do the work, but it's definitely out there. And a lot of these big corporations are out there, and a lot of these mom and pop shops are out there. So it's definitely something to get into. I'm all for it. There's a lot of money to be made in this industry, and whether it's being a sprayer, prep guy, or even being in some sort of management tech position, there's a lot of work out there. Even in the distribution side, or even creating the foam itself, there's so much that you can get into and learn. And there's a good sense about it. Like, there's something about just helping people out, helping their homes out, the return of investment on people's homes, saving them on energy. Like there's a lot of like, you just feel good about what you do. And if you want to get into a field where you just like to help people, but you want to do something that's so unique, because I feel like it's a big field, but the niche of people is this big that are actually spraying and doing the work. I feel like you could grow something tremendous. I mean, I'm doing it for 15 years now, and I probably got about a good 5 years left of spraying in me. And eventually, I want to be a tech. The days I want to get into an office position and in this industry, though. Like I've grown to a point now where I need to expand. I need to step into an office. I need to be out there training guys. I need to be a tech. I need to be like how Chaz is. He's always out there traveling around and taking his videos and stuff like that. Like those are the people I look up to, because that's where I see myself. I feel like I'm a young version of those guys. And I just want to help bring more awareness to this. And I feel like you people flood this job, it's just going to make it grow even better. So I'm all for it 100%.
Jay, do you feel it's like some sense of I guess a requirement to give back to this younger generation of spray foamers?
Yeah. I get guys that constantly message me asking for help, and I know people charge, by the hour, whatever they want to do to help these guys, but I know what it's like to be that dude, and being prior service military, I can't help but I have to take people under my wing. I have to guide people. I feel like that's just what I was put on this planet to do. And I enjoy it. And I just don't like to see people struggle, whether you're from Indiana, whether you're from California, Maine, Canada, Australia, Florida, Texas, wherever. Like, I just don't like seeing people struggle in a field where there's hundreds of people that could easily help, and I just want to be, 1% that if I can at least help you the littlest bit and you're not struggling today, you might struggle tomorrow, but you know what? Jay told me if I go back down to this, I shouldn't be too bad. And then you send me a message saying, hey man, guess what? That worked. Thank you so much. Like that means the world to me, because I just made someone's day 10 times easier for them. They don't have to go home saying, fuck this job. I quit. I don't want to do this ever again. You know what I mean? Like,
man, nobody wants to go to that job that sucks.
No, man. Like, I enjoy what I do. Were there days I hated it? 100%. But you know what, though? It's when you get to a point where you enjoy it, like, I just want to make it enjoyable for everyone, because it can be done. If I can be happy at my job, everyone can be happy doing what they're doing. Even on the bad days, you can find that silver lining no matter what.
For sure. If somebody was looking to really fire up their social media, get it to where it's the level that you guys are at, that you like to push out, is there any tips or tricks or a place that you would recommend somebody to start? I mean, I know from my experience of what I would say, but what would Jay say about getting going on the socials, on the TikTok or Instagram?
Well, it all starts off with, when you make your videos, just have fun, right? Like, don't show yourself struggling. And if you are, make it funny, like I started off just posting videos on Facebook one day. And then eventually I started getting some recognition for it. Like, not a ton of views, maybe 100, 200 views, whatever. Like, I don't need 1 million views. I just like having something there for someone to look at, But then I started seeing these things, like these trends with like the dancing and stuff like that. And there's this video of me dancing that seemed to be a pretty big one that got out there, like got a couple thousand views on it, and I got a lot of good comments about it. And I'm like, it's just about having fun, So if I had to tell somebody like what you want to do to get started is, get on TikTok, get on, I don't really do Instagram or Snapchat or any of that kind of stuff, but I just stick to the raw stuff. Give me TikTok, give me Facebook Reels, I was thinking about maybe one day branching off into like YouTube and seeing if I can do like training videos and stuff like that, but I feel like that should be left for more like the experienced people. But if you're new, just have fun with it. Even if it's like recording your, like say you have your sprayer with you and you're a prep guy, like record him doing something silly, or like, get in him and like, oh, what does this do? Like just little things, and like build like a montage video together and throw it out there and just have fun. Like, don't go into it thinking that, you're going to see anything or people are going to blow you up. Just do it for fun first and see if you like doing it. And then if you do, you're like, you know what, I can keep making videos like this. Maybe I'll post once a week or something like that, and just roll with it and see where it takes you,
Are you much of a dancer? I gotta know.
Back when I was in the military, I did take salsa class. So, Yeah, man. So the bachata and stuff like that. I used to be able to move pretty good.
But have you and your wife gone any like date nights to do the salsa?
No. So like I learned all my salsa stuff actually when I was stationed out in Greenwood, out in Indiana, and that was many moons ago. So since we just got married, what day did we get married?
You're in trouble, bro.
Jesus, May 3rd. So just like I don't know why, like May the 4th popped into my head there for a second, a little Star Wars reference.
Yeah.
But yeah, so May 3rd we just got married, and it's been pretty crazy for us. We just moved, we got the kid that's coming, so everything's been pretty crazy. So date nights haven't really happened too much. Yeah. But when we first started out dating, I mean, we had a blast. We were always out and about. We're such foodies, again, if nobody can tell. I mean, it's like we like to have a good time. We like going out to sushi. Like our thing is like, listen, if our stomachs are happy and we're having a good time, that's all we care about,
Yeah.
And she's not much of a dancer.
Well, dude, how do you become a dancer, right? How do I become a sprayer? It's just by practice.
That's right. Exactly.
Sounds like maybe some salsa classes I
think they're in order.
It's in order, man.
For sure.
I mean, your wife's probably going to tell me no, but like, no way. You don't want to see me on the dance floor. Number two, has the social stuff, the TikTok stuff helped the business that you guys are, that you work for? Do you think there's a direct correlation?
I like to think so. I mean, I have had people that are local that have reached out. I've had friends that are like, holy crap, I didn't know you did this. Can you come do like my pole barn? I'm like, yeah, I'll be right over. So I think it's definitely helped out. I mean, we have some competitors that are locally that have seen like my work and whatnot. And, even as a competitor, we have such respect for one another that like, he'll tell me how much he appreciates and sees my work. I do the same thing back to him. Like, listen, your work is phenomenal. We piggyback off of each other a lot. So it's nice to have that recognition and be like, and because I mean, at the end of the day, like, yeah, it's all business, but at the end of the day, we're all people too. So you can have a good time and be nice to each other, So I feel like it definitely has. And usually any customers I see, I always tell them like, hey, listen, if you're ever interested in this work or you like to see this kind of stuff, like check me out. You know what I mean? Like I'm all over the place. So and they do. So it's pretty cool when I get to see some local people reach out to me and check out my work.
Plus it's a great way to show off your resume.
Yeah, that's what I like to.
I mean, at the end of the day, man, we know that you're going to be, sounds like moving on to a rep or a manufacturer side, helping guys out, really being in a place where you can make even more of an impact. And what a great way to say, hey, XYZ company, go check out my TikTok, man. You'll see that I know what I'm doing. Exactly.
And it's nice too, because, I got a lot of people that, that are in higher up positions they'll text me. They'll shoot me calls like, hey man, your work looks absolutely amazing. Or, hey, when can we have you? And I'm like, I got a baby on the way. Like if you give me like a year or so, maybe I can pull that trigger and make that decision, but that's where I'm at. It's nice because I feel like you kind of feel like a quarterback that's been out there for a while, that people just want you.
Tom Brady.
It's nice.
You're the Tom Brady.
That dude, it's great. I don't know if I'm Tom Brady. I might be like, I might be a little back off from Tom
Aaron
Brady.
Rodgers? Are you Aaron Rodgers, bro?
I don't know if I'm Aaron Rodgers now. Holy crap.
I mean, that's the other spectrum, right?
But it's that good feeling because I feel like people value what I've brought to the industry. And it's just nice to see like from where I started to where I'm at now and where that value has just gotten me. And I have nothing but love and respect for all of these companies that have reached out and all of these people. And, I just hope that one day we can find a sweet little fit and, I can call a new place home,
Yeah. That sounds like that's in your near future. I mean, obviously we know the life of a sprayer. Your shoulder's probably ready to tap out.
It's the elbow.
The elbow. Okay.
Man.
That sprayer's elbow. I've heard of tennis elbow, but never heard of the sprayer's elbow. Hey, Foam Fam, real talk. You're up early in Addicts, busting your butt all day. Is your Google business profile sleeping? If your name isn't showing up when people are searching spray foam near me, then you're losing out on jobs to Chuck and his rusty van. We over here at Spray Foam Genius Marketing will fix that for you. From SEO to Google business profiles to websites. Yeah, we do all that nerdy stuff. This way, you stay booked solid. If you want more leads without getting the bad ones, hit us up at sprayfoamgeniusmarketing.com and let's turn your foam into fortune.
I've had it for like, I would say probably about 2 years ago. It hit me really, really bad. I mean, it's the ulnar tendon that connects to the outside of your elbow, but it goes through and underneath, like in through your forearm, And I was out fishing one day, and I was like, I had to have damaged it while I was fishing. I was like in mid cast, and I felt this like snap. I'm like, what the hell was that? And then ever since then, I went to like go pick up like a gun, like a spray, and I couldn't even grab it. Like I would grab the gun, but I had no power to lift it up. And I'm like, I had to have done this while spraying. Like I had to have damaged this over years of spraying. So even to this day, like I try to be proactive. Like I get like a almost like a tennis elbow strap that I'll wear if it's really, really bad. I'll tell you what, knock on wood, I haven't had pain now for, I would say, at least 5 months. I haven't had any pain there, but that scares me. Like, did I completely tear something and now I just don't feel it anymore? Or, is it just come and go? Like it heals a little bit and then bang, I rip it again. Like it's a terrible feeling because you just get to a point where I can't bend my wrist to try to spray right, because, us sprayers, you can never just spray straight on. You have to cock your wrist that little bit, and that's where I'll feel it right back in that elbow, So,
man, yeah. So the body's starting to break down, starting to tell you, hey, I need to not be doing this every day.
That's, the wife told me, she's like, listen, you got a couple years. I say 5, but I have a couple years, I think, of spraying left before my body's like, no. And plus the military kind of beat me up too a little bit. So yeah, I'm just at that point where it's like, I need to pull the trigger before I really damage myself, especially if I want to spend time with my little girl when she comes out.
You're still young too, man. Like you're not even reached the big 4-0 yet. So
it's coming soon though.
Yeah, it's quickly approaching. I'll tell you, it's pretty amazing actually once you get there.
Yeah, I got a few years of that. Yo, listen, my brother warned me. He's like, listen, when you turn 30, everything hurts. And he was not bullshitting. I get up out of bed. I'm like, oh my God, where's this pain coming from?
I saw this thing that was talking about seat warmers, how once you get to about age 30, seat warmers aren't just when it's cold out. It's just to turn on to warm up your aches and pains in your back.
Oh my God. Yeah, the back be killing you. Like the middle of your back. Oh my God, it's terrible. Terrible.
Yeah. Jay, what's your take on regulation? I always finish the show with this because I feel it's slightly controversial, but as well as it just kind of gives us where everybody's mindset is within the business. Like, what's your take on regulation, and should there be some form of licensing, some form of friction, some type of certification? What do you think?
I won't speak for everybody. I will speak from, for what I have seen in this industry, from all over pictures, videos, from current times back to when I started. There needs to be some sort of regulation, 100%. I feel like just some Joe Schmo getting on the gun, buying a rig, going out there spraying can have a lot of ramifications, a lot of liability issues. Down the road, if you damage someone's house, end up in a crazy lawsuit. And I feel that if you get with a company, or if they, made it so that you had to be certified, just like the union workers do, electricians, plumbers, etc., pipe fitters, whatever, you have to go through, I believe, steps. That's just my thing. I feel like you need to start out somewhere. I feel that you should work for a company that has a master sprayer, license or whatever they have to have. And after that, like, you come in at a certain level. And then once you reach X amount of board feet, X amount of gallons, whatever, you can then move on to the next level. Like almost like military, like a time and service kind of thing, or like what your application looks like. And then companies should help sprayers go to then the next level of training, where it's like, hey, you start out as an apprentice, now you're going to move on to like the journeyman of spraying, or hell, you're going to move on to like an advanced level of spraying, and eventually maybe become a master yourself, Mm-hmm. I think that companies need to have certified sprayers. I've ran into and heard of countless horror stories of sprayers in these big corporations that just grab people off the streets, put them on the gun, similar to my situation. And one crazy story was there was these 2 guys spraying in an attic space, which these old Toll Brothers homes, they're all like hip corners all the way around the house, Mm-hmm. And sometimes in those corners, it's a little tight, but it's a deep cavity. And these guys just open in and just pull the trigger and just fill that whole thing up. Well, you put 8, 9, 10 inches of foam in there one shot. I can only imagine what the core temperature was. And it ignited the fire, ignited the wood. And after they left the job, 2.5 hours later, that entire house burned to the ground.
Holy crap.
That right there is not being educated, should be licensed and certified. And like, who takes care of that? Like, who is the person that has to front that kind of damage? The company? Well, they don't care. They make millions and millions of dollars a year, right? But like, you're going to put these guys back on that same gun and go do it again? You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
or you're just going to fire them and replace them with other people that aren't certified. So I believe certification is key. And then I believe that foam manufacturers like UPC, I've seen it with Ambit, that have these universities where they get you out there spraying, should hold obviously certifications to spray then that foam. Yeah, I mean, that's just where I'm at with that. I feel like if you're going to be putting a product into someone's house, just as an electrician has to be licensed and certified or whatever, sprayer should be as well. Our job is there's a lot of responsibility built on just being a spray foamer versus being an insulation, like, back guy. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, those guys can just throw insulation in there all day. It's insulation, right? But when you're spraying foam, you can do a lot of damage to somebody's house,
You're a chemist. And
yeah, you're a chemist, you're a weatherman, you're a physicist, you're an electrician, you're all these other trades wrapped into one. And then the easy part is the application. So it's like, there needs to be some sort of regulation and certification that's required for this job. It has to be. You're messing with, if you're a trailer guy and you need to have a generator or you need to, tie in the shore power to someone's house, like, you're messing with some dangerous stuff. You want someone who's certified as a sprayer doing that, not just, hey, go hook up to that 220. Like what's going to happen if somebody doesn't
kill yourself?
Yeah, exactly. So it's just, it's a little hectic. So I'm all for that kind of stuff. I mean, people can love it, people can hate what I have to say about it, but at the end of the day, I want somebody that I can trust, who's certified. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's people that could be certified that can still mess up and do jobs too. Nobody's perfect. But I would trust a certified sprayer over a non-certified sprayer any day of the week, no matter what foam I see coming out of their guns, no matter how long they've been doing it. Show me some certs to back up what you do, and then I'll let you spray from whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean, because then at the end of the day, you have at least some barrier of entry with having some
100%.
friction there. Do you think that starts with, I mean, possibly, like, obviously there isn't something that exists currently. There is the PPC program through SPFA. Do you think it might start there as kind of like, that's the certification?
I think so.
It is an association that's already established? Yeah,
I think so. And like what we touched like pre-show about, like, when they have these conventions going on down there, that I feel like that's a perfect opportunity. Like, if you're a spray foam company, even if you're mom and pop shop, just fork out the money and go to one of these. Get down there, use that time to get certified, and like use it as a requirement for your guys. Like, hey, listen, if you want to come along for this, like, we have no problem fronting the costs, but you're going to get certified to do this. So that way we know and we can trust that you're doing this the right way. I feel like that's where it needs to start, and then branch on to something that's more nationwide and eventually global,
Yeah. Plus, that's a business write-off then.
Yes, it is.
Like, be smart about this, you guys.
Yeah.
And then in your opinion, then the manufacturer then would be the one that was checking for certifications to sell the foam?
Yeah, I think, I feel like as a manufacturer, you need to make sure you're selling your foam to then licensed and certified sprayers. I mean, obviously people want to turn a quick buck for things. You can't stop every little thing from taking place, but if you can at least regulate it to a point, then you trust that your foam is going into good companies that's then putting out good foam. And then it just cuts back the liability. Like, you're going to have a lot less failures, a lot less problems if you're giving it to the right companies that are doing it. Again, I know it's probably not the best for some of these other mom and pops that don't want that, but it's all about trust, and it's all about insurance and liability. Like, I don't want to be held liable for someone else spraying a product that then they're not certified to spray. They dump it into someone's house, and then there's catastrophic failures, bad delaminations. We got voids. We have to cut out foam. Like, I don't want to be the one on the receiving end of that. So that's why I think it's just paramount that all of this needs to work together, whether it's from the manufacturers down checking on it, companies being responsible for their guys getting certified from it, and then the actual certification courses themselves being big on this, hosting like a thing every year, or even a couple times a year. Like, hey, listen, let's do a, every 6 months, there's a certification course that goes on. Maybe there's one in the South, maybe there's one in the North. For us guys up north here, it'd be kind of cool to have, instead of it just going to Canada, like, why don't you bring a course up to like Delaware somewhere? Or why don't you bring it up to like the north, so we can all do like a northern certification, then maybe a southern certification for people that spray less foam, or maybe they spray more open cell down there. Like, there's things you can do to really put this whole thing together to make sure that you have trustworthy sprayers and companies going out doing your work that are backed by certifications.
Sounds like what you're talking about is some continuing education that has to happen.
Yeah, it just has to happen.
I've seen
so many problems with it. It has to happen.
The business is changing so quick that if a person like yourself, let's say you're certified 15 years ago, it's almost like, we need to be some continuing education because things have changed so long. Maybe you got certified 15 years ago and haven't sprayed a set of foam since.
Yeah.
And then you're like totally lost, but like technically you're certified still. So to have some continuing education, whatever that be, 10 hours a year or whatever the case is, you can get
I feel like it should be something almost similar like how OSHA 30 is. Like, nothing crazy like OSHA 30, but almost like a refresher course that has to be taken like maybe every year, every X amount of years. You know what I mean? Like, they could do something where it's like, I don't know, like it could be death by PowerPoint. Nobody likes it, but just to be able to see videos on like how foam is supposed to be done, the science behind it, get real life sprayers in there talking about it, like not just some robot that's talking to you, like really breaking down the foam, showing you what's supposed to be done, because it's just a refresher. Like, you might know how to do all this stuff, but at the end of the day, you might be spraying a foam that never existed back then, that now exists now, and the catalysts are completely different. So you may think you know how to dial it, but it might be completely opposite. So you have to rewire your brain a little bit, and a refresher course would help tremendously, especially with technology advancing. Nobody's going to be using these dinosaur, H20s or whatever, 20 years from now. They're going to be using stuff that's way more advanced, like the Bosses and the better end Gracos and stuff like that, the PMCs. They're going to be using these more technologically more advanced reactors than they were back then. So you got to stay up with the times. It's an A must,
And if they host one up in Delaware, if they did like a free lunch, we can guarantee that Jay will be there to go through the certification.
100%.
I mean, who doesn't like free food, right? So
yeah, exactly.
That's how they can get, hey, this is going to be a free lunch with some training. Come and hang out with us.
Exactly. The one thing I care about most is when it comes to these events, just let me spray the foam. I just want to spray it. I want you to show me in your mind as a company, as a manufacturer, what dialed in foam looks like. Mm-hmm. And I want to see what they consider as good. You know what I mean? Because if to me it doesn't look good, I want to make sure it's good to them. You know what I mean? Like, so that way I know what it's supposed to look like to the manufacturer's eye, and what I can do to make it better. Because I'm always trying to one up it a little bit.
Maybe the spec sheet's a little wrong. Look at my foam. Right.
Listen, I've sprayed a lot of foam in my life, and I can't tell you how many times I've not been within spec sheets, and my yield is pretty close, and my finish is a lot better than most.
Yeah.
So, the tech sheets I feel like are a good guideline, but again, it goes right back to what we said. Break it down Barney style. Let's do the science of it. Let's educate on how to just read foam. Don't worry about the tech sheet. Just read the foam first.
Versus going, this is Huntsman, this is UPC, this is Ambient. Like, let's just look at the foam. Blind, basically, you don't know what's in the barrel. You're just going to spray and figure it out.
Exactly. The great thing with your phone is, especially with that Reactor Connect, what I like a lot about that app is you can screenshot. So if I have my temperatures and my pressures up, like say on a day where it's sunny and 75, it's perfect out, and I'm spraying my Huntsman at like 105 across the board. Let me screenshot that, because then I can put that in my phone as this was the perfect day to spray as a baseline. Well, now if you got a little hot, I can screenshot that and be like, I sprayed it this much warmer. So then, like, say next year comes around, you might forget, like, how did I spray that Huntsman, or how did I spray that UPC? You can just go right back in your phone and be like, oh, that's how I sprayed it back then. And then you're redialed right back in. Like, it's those nice, convenient things that you can do to really help yourself out.
Digital log. Yeah. I know in Canada they have that literally log things on their foam, but this sounds like a digital way. Also, it's a CYA, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's cover your ass.
Exactly, because I know what my foam temperatures were. I know what my parameters were. I try to log everything, because if you don't, like, say, like we had a situation where, there was like, I think like 9 inches of foam that was sprayed, and they called for like X amount inches per pass, after it cools down, another X amount inches per pass. Well, we did that. We stayed everything within parameters, and it's still delaminated. And I'm like, no. We did everything within the guideline. We can core sample this and check, right? And usually, if you did it wrong, nobody wants to core sample something you did, right?
Yeah.
But when you did it right, you're like, no, we're gonna core sample this, and we core sampled it, and it showed everything. The foam was not failing or nothing. It's still delaminated. You could stick your whole hand behind it. We're like, what happened here? And we had everything. We covered our own self. We had everything logged, all the pressures logged, temperatures logged. Everything was running at the operating way that it was supposed to be, and it covered our ass tremendously. So please log everything, write everything down, date it, even your lot, your batch number, whatever. Log it all down, so that way you're just covered. You never want to be the guy on the receiving end of that.
That's the first thing those manufacturers are going to ask for.
Exactly. And then you're gonna be like, I don't remember what that was. Well, now it's on you.
I don't know. Well, that's a perfect place for us to stop, Jay. Man, this hour or so that we've been just chatting back and forth, man, it's been an amazing pleasure of mine to get to know you better and put a face to the name. I see your name out there, but we've never really officially got a chance to chat. So I appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Thanks for having me, man. It's been a great time.
Yeah, and you'd mentioned you're extremely you have a place in your heart to help anybody out there. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Tell you what, Facebook, man. I mean, a lot of these guys on Spray Foam Worldwide and Spray Foam Secrets, a lot of these pages, they all have me on there.
Yeah.
Just message me. If you can't message me, just write me a comment on any of my posts or anywhere, tag me in something, and I'll get back to you pretty quick. I'm pretty quick with my responses. I try not to forget anybody. And if I do, I apologize. I'm just as busy as everyone else is out there spraying. So, just give me some time, but I will get back to you. I will answer all your questions and I will get you dialed in on that phone. That's an absolute promise.
Yeah. And Jay, your first and last name spelled differently. So why don't you go ahead and spell that for people?
So my first name is Jei, Jei, and my last name is Geri, Geri.
Yeah. I think that's extremely important, man, because if people would probably be saying Jay, like, where's this guy at? Like, I
get
can't
it all the
find
time.
this guy.
Yeah,
Like,
I get it all the time.
He's not showing up on Facebook. I want to message him. So I want to make sure if anybody wants to get in touch with you, man, they're able to. So
awesome, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the Foam to Fortune podcast. It was amazing to hear about your experience and your history in this trade.
Oh, man, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me. It's been a great time.
Yeah, take care, man.
Take care, brother.
See ya.